Well, we don't have PowerPoint tonight, folks, so you're going to have to listen to me, and we're going to try to explain what you would have seen if we had it, but we're going to walk through it. The presentation will be online in the morning. And Don Marlin's got the 3D seismic. Unfortunately, you're probably not going to see very much of it since it's kind of graphical. Anyway, tonight, Don is going to present his basic interpretation of the 3D seismic, and I want to tell everybody here the conclusions of what Don is seeing. First of all, he has identified what we're calling the disturbed rock zone from the bottom of Oxy 3 cavern up beside the salt to the surface. He's been able to process the Texas brine data, and he is seeing a disturbed rock zone. So we do have communication from the cavern to the surface. Now, I wasn't anticipating this would serve the purpose, but to illustrate what this looks like, Deborah, can you come here? Well, I can't point and hold the mic, I'll drop something. If you would just point to the pieces. The disturbed rock zone, believe it or not, looks like an hourglass. And what we've got at the bottom is it kind of bulges out from the cavern at a depth of about 3,000 feet down to about 6,000 feet. And so the bottom of the disturbed rock zone, for lack of a better term, looks like the bottom of the hourglass. Then we go up near where the salt overhang was. We go through a very narrow neck, we're calling it. It's where the disturbed rock zone doesn't show up very clear in the 3D seismic, but we know it has to be there because we've got communication from the sinkhole down to the cavern. So we know it has to be there. We just can't see it too well in the 3D seismic yet. Once it goes through the neck, once it gets above the salt a little bit, it starts to broaden back out again to the point it's about as wide as the sinkhole is now. The sinkhole now is about 1,500 feet across in a north-south direction, about 1,000 feet east-west. The sinkhole is expanding to the south. So the upper part here is a disturbed rock zone below the sinkhole, and then if you go up, it broadens out to what we see at the surface in the sinkhole. So the best way to visualize this, and we've thought of the best way to do it, we actually have some nice fancy pictures that you can't see, is it's shaped like an hourglass. So we've got salt over here, we've got this disturbed rock zone, and we've got the sinkhole at the top. So that's kind of what Don has been able to interpret from the 3D seismic. Okay. Everybody laughed at me when I put that in the car. The other thing Don has been able to do is he has identified several probable gas horizons, and he'll talk about how deep they are here in a minute. But they're down about, what's the shallow one, Don? About 1,400 feet?
The most probable one is about 1,650.
1,650. He's identified, I believe, 3 probable.
2 and 3 possible.
Okay. 2 probable and 3 possible, and this is 3D seismic speak. But he has identified 5 potential gas horizons on the western side of the Napoleonville Salt Dome. And we think 1 or more of those, maybe all of them, are contributing gas to the sinkhole. Now we're pretty sure gas is still coming up through the disturbed rock zone because it was really quiet in May. The sinkhole didn't have a lot of what they call raindrop bubbles, which look like fish jumping. And July 7th, I believe, I don't know where John is, but I think on July 6th or 7th, raindrop bubbles reappeared. And what these are pretty good sized methane bubbles, and they come up and they're big enough when they hit the surface, it looks like fish jumpers. And they call them the raindrop bubbles. I showed a video last time or a couple times ago of raindrop bubbles. So we know some gas is still coming up. How much, we don't know. So he was able to visualize and see gas horizons at depth. The third thing I want to point out to you is I know some comments have been made about the 3D seismic was going to be able to pick out the shallow gas. The 3D seismic did not pick out the shallow gas and where it might be. However, we've got conventional geologic methods that we've used now to map out where the top of the aquifer is, where the gas might be accumulating. So even though the 3D seismic did not show where the gas was, we've still got a very good definition of where the gas is. And I had a new map I was going to show you tonight of where the gas is. But we had to go back a couple steps and use traditional geologic methods to define it. But we do have a good idea of where the gas is in the aquifer. The other thing, there were some questions raised, why did it take so long? There was all kinds of things that have gone on to legally give Don Marlin access to the data. 3D seismic has a lot of legal stuff behind it, and it took a while to get through all that legal process. He got it. He's finished his interpretation of the Texas brine process data, and you would have seen it tonight if the projector had worked. And it does take time. I said it before, this is a complex situation. This is not just out finding oil and gas. We're trying to find the gas reservoirs. We're trying to image the side of the dome. We're trying to find the disturbed rock zone. And it's complicated, and it takes time to get through that. Donna's managed to get through it, and we have defined the DRZ. We've defined the gas zone, and we've got a pretty good idea of what the edge of the salt looks like. And I will tell you, best Don can tell from his analysis, the edge of the salt as of March of this year probably didn't move very much. I know we've discussed that in the past, but it appears the salt was not affected in the breakout, in the collapse. The other thing, for a lot of reasons, it has been decided that DNR has tasked Don with reprocessing the 3D seismic data. And the reason is there's some new computer programs, for lack of a better term, which will enable Don to see even more detail in the 3D seismic than he can right now. That processing has been going on now for 3 or 4 weeks, I believe, Don. We're supposed to have the final results by the end of the month. And the reason is it's kind of to sharpen the focus, for lack of a better analogy. You know, when your camera's out of focus, it's a little fuzzy. This will sharpen the focus. It'll allow Don to look closer at some of these features that are very small and better define what he's seeing now. And with that, Don,
I'll show you my images.
I think what we do, you pull it up and I'll hold your computer up. I know it's going to be tough to see.
I'm not going to show it to the entire audience here because you won't be able to see it, but I'll use it as a prop for me to walk you through what I see. And hopefully with arm waving,
with arm waving and I guess you'd say auditory imaging, I'll try to explain to you what I found.